Welcome to Karina's channel. Ever wondered how your favorite beer is made? Beer, the third most popular drink in the world, has a fascinating and rich history that's as bubbly and engrossing as the drink itself. It started at the break of civilization, with its roots extending back to the 5th BC, or perhaps even earlier. The early beer brewers saw it as a divine gift, a sentiment that many beer lovers still share today. Starting from humble beginnings in ancient Mesopotamia, beer has flowed through the annals of human history, quenching the thirst of pharaohs, energizing the pyramid builders, and even serving as a type of currency in some societies. Its story is a weave intertwined with threads of human cultural evolution and the tireless quest for the perfect brew. Are you ready for an exciting journey through the brewing process of beer? Stay tuned for a gripping adventure as we uncover the magic behind your favorite pint. What makes a beer a beer? The answer lies in its ingredients. At the heart of every pint are 4 basic elements: water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. Let's dive in. First up, water. It's the unsung hero of brewing, making up to 95% of your beer. The minerals in water influence the beer's flavor, giving us a wide variety of styles and tastes. Next, we have malted barley. This is where beer gets its color and body. When barley is soaked, sprouted, and then dried, it creates malt. This malt is what gives your beer its sweet and toasty undertones. Moving on, we have hops. These little green flowers are the soul of beer, providing bitterness to balance the sweetness of the malt, and a delightful aroma to boot. And lastly, yeast. Yeast is the catalyst that makes beer, well, beer. It gobbles up the sugars from the malt and produces alcohol, carbon dioxide, and flavors. With these 4 simple ingredients, the magic of beer making begins. From grain to glass, it's time to break down the brewing process. This journey, my friends, is one of transformation, where humble grains metamorphose into a liquid that has been celebrated for millennia: beer. Let's start with malting. This is the first step in the brewing process, where malted barley, the backbone of beer, takes center stage. The barley is steeped in water and allowed to germinate, turning the grain starches into fermentable sugars. After a few days, the germination is halted by drying the grains in a kiln. The result? Malted barley, ready to impart its sweet, grainy goodness. Next, we move to mashing, where the malted barley meets hot water in a dance of extraction. This process, akin to steeping a giant pot of tea, allows the hot water to seep into the grains, dissolving the sugars. The temperature of the water is crucial here, as it affects the type of sugars extracted and thus the beer's final sweetness and alcohol content. The result of this dance, a thick, sweet liquid known as the mash. But it's not all smooth sailing from here. The mash is laden with grain particles, and we want our beer to be clear, not cloudy. Enter the lautering process. The mash is transferred to a vessel called a lauter tun, which acts like a giant sieve. Hot water is then rinsed through the mash, a process known as sparging, to extract any remaining sugars. The liquid that runs off, now free from grain particles, is called the wort. This sweet, amber liquid is the foundation of our beer, full of potential and ready for the next stages of brewing. So there you have it, the first half of the brewing process: malting, mashing, and lautering. We've taken humble grains and transformed them into a sweet, amber wort, ripe for fermenting. But hold on to your pint glasses, because we're only just getting started. We've got our wort, but we're only halfway through the brewing process. Continuing our brewing journey, next comes the boil and fermentation. Now, having mashed our grains and separated the liquid, we have what's known as the wort. This wort is a sweet liquid, and it's about to undergo some transformation. We move on to the boiling phase. This is where we add hops, the ingredient that gives beer its unique bitter flavor and aroma. Imagine the hops as the spice in our beer. Just as you might season a dish with various spices, we use different types of hops to create a variety of flavors and aromas. Some hops might add a citrusy note, while others might lend a piney, earthy, or even a floral touch to the beer. The wort and hops are boiled together for about an hour to allow the flavors to meld. The boiling also sterilizes the wort, ensuring no unwanted bacteria make their way into our brew. Once the boil is complete, the wort needs to cool down. It's like preparing a comfortable bed for our next crucial ingredient: yeast. Now, yeast is a fascinating little organism. It's the engine behind fermentation. When we add yeast to the cooled wort, it gets to work, feasting on the sugars in the wort. As it consumes the sugar, it produces alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is the fermentation process, where our sweet wort transforms into beer. Fermentation can take anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks, depending on the type of beer we're brewing. During this time, the yeast is busy turning every last bit of sugar into alcohol. So there we have it. The wort has been boiled, the hops have been added, and the yeast has done its job. We've transformed water, grains, hops, and yeast into a beverage that has been enjoyed for centuries. And just like that, we've brewed beer. But we're not quite finished yet. Patience is a virtue, especially in beer making. As we round off the brewing process, the beer enters a stage known as maturation. This is where the magic happens as the beer quietly develops its complex flavors and aromas over time. This stage can last anywhere from a few days to several months, depending on the style of beer. Next up is filtration, where any remaining solids are removed to give the beer its clean, clear presentation. But we're not quite done yet. The beer then undergoes carbonation, a process that gives it that delightful fizzy sensation. Finally, the beer is ready to be packaged. Whether it's destined for bottles, cans, or kegs, each container is meticulously cleaned and prepared to ensure the beer's quality and freshness are preserved. And there you have it, the journey from simple ingredients to the refreshing beer in your glass. Cheers!